Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Slant Audio here, and today we're going to take a look at three popular picks: the Andy James Flow 2mm pick, the John Petrucci Flow 2mm pick, and the John Petrucci Jazz 3. Now I'm going to give you my personal thoughts about these with some close-ups, and then we'll do an audio comparison of the tones. All right, so make sure to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about the John Petrucci Flow pick right here. All right, so it's a 2mm pick, and it's an Ultex material, and it has just a this logo. The Andy James pick has its own logo as well. It's kind of like holographic in a sense, and very reflective. One gripe that people had is that after not much play, it ends up wearing off. One cool thing though is that you cannot feel any difference between the surface of the logo itself and the pick. Which is ideal for me, especially. And when I first got this pick and I just put it in the hand and I tried it out, I was amazed at how well I can grip it. You don't have any type of extra textured grip, like imprints or anything like that. So it's all based on the material, this Ultex material that for some reason, it really feels smooth. It doesn't feel like sandpaper. You can really just grip the hell out of it, and it's awesome in that manner. Now let's also talk about the Jaypee Jazz 3 pick right here. All right, so this pick, you could see it looks like there's quite a texture. In this particular pick, it is 1.5 millimeters. It's Ultex as well, though. And when I first played it and held it, there is definitely a difference in grip. I cannot grip it between the fingers if I move them back and forth a little bit, anywhere near as well as the Flow picks, and that's consistent with the Andy James and the Jaypee Flow as well. I'm not sure what the reasoning for that is. I think perhaps it may be due to this Jaypee logo. This is it's beveled out slightly. You would think that would give you more grip ability or texture, but it just doesn't. Either way, it is a nice pick in terms of its design. You can see there's a glossy section at the bottom, but we'll get more to this. There's other differences, of course, that we'll get to in a second. And then the Andy James Flow pick right here. Again, very similar. Everything's the same. It's 2.0. It's Ultex as well, and the only difference is the size of Andy James. It is quite large. Outside of that, everything else is the same. It can grip it just the same. So now let's talk about size. And I guess the best way to contrast this would be I'm going to show the size of a Flow pick as compared to a standard Dunlop Tortex style grip. And of course, almost everybody has these picks. These are the picks that you go to a music store or somewhere, they're just handing these things away. So let me line these up at the top just to show you the size difference between a standard Dunlop Ultex pick and a Jazz 3. And you can see it is quite the difference in size. So that's if you're coming from this pick to a Jazz 3, there's going to be a massive difference, and you're going to notice one of the things also, of course, is the pointed tip, and this is the same thing with the Flow picks. They have pointed tips as well. When it comes to these picks, if you're trying to do real fast alternate picking runs, and I can only speak for myself, I wasn't hitting the strings as cleanly due to this sort of beveled border radius right here. This pick, as well as the Flow picks, allow you to hit those strings with a little bit more frequency if you're going just right near your edge of ability in terms of alternate picking runs. So yeah, huge difference in size. So this pick, the Jazz 3, is the smallest of the other two picks, the Flows that we're looking at. If I line these up here with the Jaypee Flow versus the Jaypee Jazz 3, we'll see that the Flow pick is definitely bigger. You're going to notice that size. May not look like a huge difference on screen, but it definitely is, and these are lined up at the top too. So you could see just how bigger this pick is, and you do feel it in the hands for sure. And that size difference is even more apparent when you get to the bigger Andy James pick. Let me get these lined up as well. All right, so this is quite a big difference in the size. So this is the Andy James Flow versus the Jaypee Jazz 3 pick. It is a massive pick when you hold this in your hands. Now, this, of course, would be ideal for somebody who hits the strings with a lot of intensity or action, and you feel like you really need to get a good grip on the pick itself. But of course, when it comes to playing any three of these, if you're forced to choose, of course, go based on this review and other reviews. But they're only a few bucks. Buy all three of them. That's ultimately the best way. Same thing with a guitar. If you can, try to play as many as you can just to get a feel for what's right for you, because a lot of this is subjective based on playing ability, your style, and the tone that you might prefer. Now, if you want to hear the difference between the tone of these three picks right here, I'm going to show you, or not show you, but you can listen to the difference. And when it comes to the two flow picks, there's pretty much no difference. All right, so hopefully you found that interesting. I know I did. I was expecting more of a difference based on the recordings alone, but when I'm sitting there playing and actually hitting the strings and I'm hearing the picks hit the strings, I can definitely feel and hear that the Jazz 3 has much more treble and much more highs as opposed to the flows, but that didn't really translate to the recordings in just about every example. With exception to the last example, I think we could definitely hear that there was more highs associated with the Jazz 3 as opposed to the flow picks. But so I think that really the key takeaway here is choose a pick primarily for how it's going to make you feel and how it feels in the hands and how it allows you to play, because otherwise there's not a huge difference, an audible difference in the audio recording alone. All right, guys, so hopefully you found that enjoyable. Make sure you subscribe here, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.